So, ever since about this time last Sunday, I've been trying to make sense of the events that unfolded in Orlando. I'm not going to repeat them. You all know we've got young children in here. You don't need me to repeat them for you. But I do want to say to you what I wrote the day after. For people who were saying, so where was God in those hours? I do believe that God was present. I do believe that God was in that club. I do believe that God was in the lines of the thousands of people who stood and waited to give blood in the days that followed. I do believe that God was in the embrace of loved ones and family members and strangers who were consoling those who were grieving. I do believe that God has been weeping with us throughout this week. Are there questions that I can't answer? Absolutely. But I do believe that God has been present throughout this week. I've been trying to sort of make sense, along with so many people who have been in the news, trying to make sense of what would motivate this Omar Mateen to do something like what he did. Apparently, as events were unfolding, he called 911 and sort of pledged his allegiance to ISIS, which is a Shiite group, a radical group. You all have heard of ISIS. But what was confusing is that in that same conversation, he also talked about his affections for the individuals that had been part of the Boston Marathon events now a few years ago. Those individuals, however, were moved by materials that came out of publications from Al-Qaeda. Now, Al-Qaeda is also a Shiite group, but Al-Qaeda and ISIS are at odds with each other. And then, to sort of muddy the waters even further, a former co-worker of his stepped forward to say that just a couple years earlier, Mateen had indicated he had been a part of Hezbollah, which is a Sunni group, and at complete war with ISIS or with Al-Qaeda. And so it seems like Mateen was, well, confused to say the least about where his allegiances were. Personal details also trickled in over the last few days, right? About his history of violence in his first marriage, and then the personal piece about having attended Pulse a number of times over the span of years, not necessarily just kind of checking the place out, and actually having been a part of some dating and match sites for gay men, and so raising the questions of what was going on for him internally. And as you try to create a profile, I mean, here's the thing. The common threads are that this was a guy who was filled with anger and with rage and with a thirst for violence and hate and it sounds like quite possibly self-loathing as well. Those are the common denominators, whatever this guy's allegiances might have been. I heard one interviewer sort of sum it up best, I thought, when he said, look, whatever this guy's affiliation, whatever this guy's orientation, what we know about this guy is that he was tormented by a host of demons. And I thought, well, that's about the truth of this. So demons figure prominently in the gospel that we just heard from, Luke's gospel. Jesus has gotten in a boat and he's gone across the Sea of Galilee, and he's arrived on the banks of the Gerasene, and a man runs out, approaches Jesus as soon as he steps foot on land, and Luke says that this is a man who's been wrestling with demons for years. So many demons, in fact, that he barely can tolerate wearing clothes. And he And the demons also are ready to be rid of this man. The man comes and he throws himself at Jesus, right? And then the next moment, the demons say, Jesus, will you release us to go into this herd of swine? And so Jesus does. And it's a little bit like kind of a B-level bad horror movie, right? So the demons are released, they go into a herd of swine, and then a herd of swine go running down the riverbanks and throw themselves into the lake, and they're drowned. I bet the demons didn't see that one. What is not to be lost here, though, in this story, it's bad script notwithstanding, is that, look, we've got some guy who, whatever the demons are, has been so gripped by these demons that he's been hardly able to function. And he recognizes that there's something special about Jesus, and he approaches it. We've got these demons that have had their way with this guy for years and years, and they even recognize that there's something special about this Jesus, and they completed him. And then we've got the swine herders, the pig farmers. And forgive me if there are any pig farmers in town, but those were not the brightest bulbs in the box, all right? And even they recognize that Jesus has some kind of special power. And they go and they tell other people in the city. What we should not lose, despite the sort of fantastical nature of this story, is that Jesus has the power to heal us of our demons, to relieve us of our greatest